Welcome back, folks, to a special episode of Jamin's Daily. Today I'm going to go over a serious topic, the Russo-Ukrainian War. Every day, pretty much, almost every day, I wake up and I put it on YouTube and I watch a couple of content creators who give me some information on the day-to-day updates of the war, and one of which is Willie OAM is his name. Willie OAM. He's Australian, and what I like is I think they might be ahead, so he puts his videos up. So when I wake up by 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, he's already got a video up for that day. So I get to, as I'm getting ready for work, I catch up on what's going on when it comes to the Russian war, okay? And a couple of things that I have taken away from just being well informed and keeping up on this daily is the reason for the war. Why did this happen? In my opinion, and there's going to be people who I'm willing to take a risk and say that the NATO expansion all the way to Ukraine is ultimately what I believe is the main reason for the war. Okay? NATO was designed and is an alliance that was created to protect Europe from the Soviet communists. The Soviet Union fell, and yet but NATO didn't reconstitute to be like, hey, the enemy has fallen, now it's Russia. They missed that moment. Allegedly, Putin had talked to Bill Clinton and said, hey, we're not the Soviet Union, we're Russia. Why do you still need NATO to protect you from us when we're not the Soviets? Let's start new. And Bill Clinton said, yeah, maybe. And he went and talked to the powers that be. They came back and he said, no deal. No deal. Because the only way, the manufacturers of war can make those weapons is if they have an enemy. And the enemy is, I guess, is Russia. Okay? And so, okay, so be it, right? And NATO continues to expand, even though allegedly the deal that was made at the time when the Soviet Union was falling and their willingness to give satellites their independence was that it would continue to be their sphere of influence and NATO would not encroach, and that's not what has happened. Now in my estimation, no, in my humble opinion, we're seeing Ukraine being utilized much like other theaters of war in a proxy. Ukraine has now become the proxy for the West to fight Russia. And ultimately, that's not a good situation for them. They're running out of manpower. They fought valiantly. Okay, this war has dragged on for over 2 years because of several reasons. One, I can remember when this started that Western analysts would speculate that Russia could perhaps take Kiev in days, weeks. It didn't happen. Ukrainians fought valiantly. The Russians overcommitted. They overestimated. Who knows? Things happen in the fog of war, and Russia didn't take over the whole country. They probably took over, maybe 30%. Then the Ukrainians pull off an offensive, push the Russians even further back, which gave the West all kinds of, hope that they could win. And then mistakes were made. My opinion, one of the turning points of the war that, because I tune into also another amazing content creator, History Legends. This guy gives great analysis. He's funny. He does it in an amazing way. Great content. Got to check it out. If you keep up with his analysis and things going on, one of the things that I've come to realize is that Bakhmut and that battle really was a turning point in the sense that Ukrainians used up too much manpower. They should have, and allegedly the West was telling them to do a do a retreat, to pull back, and they didn't. It was supposed to be. It was a morale type of thing. It was a they were causing heavy attrition on the Russians, and this, in my opinion, led them to believe that they were winning and that they were doing great. And they were, but who were they killing at the time? They were killing Wagner, PMC. They were killing convicts who had been recruited. Okay? And what that force did was allow the retreating Russian MOD, the retreating Russian soldiers, to fall back, go to the rear, set up build the Saravakin line, defense lines, in anticipation of Ukraine's summer offensive, and train their actual military while Wagner is out there with the first wave of conscripts. That second wave of conscripts is being trained with the soldiers in the rear that are getting some rest, and you see this huge battle in Bakhmut where the Ukrainians used too much manpower and they're running out of men. You see there's forced universal conscription pretty much. The average soldier for the Ukrainian forces is like over 40 now. They're kidnapping men in the streets. There is no rotation. There's no once you're in the armed services, there's no getting out unless the war is won or you're killed or wounded so badly that you can't go back. Okay? There's no demobilization. You get mobilized, you go to war, it's either victory or death, or casualty so bad you can't make it back to the front. Okay? So can you imagine if you're a man in Ukraine? Hell, things are getting so bad, women are participating heavily. They're there as well. And the saying is, the West will fight Russia until the last Ukrainian. And it could turn out that way. And if I was Ukrainian, I would be livid. I would hate Americans and the West. Mainly the West, not the Ukrainians. I would hate Germany and France and the British, because they're the ones who are closer. They're the ones who said they would help. And everything was too little, too late. And I know I'm 40, so years from now, decades from now, there's going to be in the history books why there's going to be people who are making these decisions right now who aren't telling us the whole truth, that later on will write their memoirs about what really happened and what was going on with their decision making. But ultimately, too little, too late. I don't know what the strategy. I think the strategy is, unfortunately and tragically, is like a long game. The West is like, yeah, let's keep fighting. They didn't give the Ukrainians enough to win, just enough to stay in the fight. And if you've listened to some of the politicians, some of the proponents of the war, you would think that that is actually their strategy. They don't want a quick victory for Ukraine. They want to drag this on to degrade Russia more and more and more for as long as possible. And if that's the case, that's not. How is that good for Ukraine or for the Ukrainian soldier who has to fight? Okay, they're just basically, it's a never-ending war, and they're just going to casualties every day into perpetuity. All right. So I don't know, folks. Tell me what you think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you think the Ukrainians have a chance and the F-16s are going to make a difference, and this next round of mobilization is going to bring in more fighters, and things are going to change. But I'm pretty skeptical. I really want. If I was Ukrainian, I would try. They need to sue for peace. You sue for peace. You give them the Donbass, and you join NATO, and you create a massive. There's going to be a massive demilitarization zone, like when it comes to North Korea and South Korea, right? And that will be the compromise. But we'll find out. Until then, stay tuned. Smash the like button. Subscribe. Jamin's Daily. Find me on Facebook. Be my friend. And until the next time, stay tuned because the best is yet to come.